Hello there, my name is CalumK and welcome to part 2 of the tutorial on making a 3D game in goDot. If you haven't seen part 1 already, there is a link in the description below. I recommend you check it out. If not, then we will get going. So in the last tutorial we got the 3D tractor and we imported it into the scene, and you can see we have it here, which is great. We can look around it with the mouse, but it doesn't particularly do very much. If we run the scene, you should see pretty much nothing, and the reason you see nothing is because there is no camera. And without a camera we can't see anything. At least I believe that's the reason we can't see anything. I can't say that for certain, but that's as far as I understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by adding a camera. So we'll choose the game, we'll choose to add something new, and we will choose to add a camera. And we've now added a 3D camera to this scene. And what you'll notice is there's a preview option here. If we click it, we can see what the camera can see, and then we can click away to change. Now I like to split my viewport into 3 and set this bottom right hand to what the camera always sees, so I'm going to do that for the moment. We can move the camera around in the conventional way. We can drag the camera around with these kind of draggy arrow things. That's the technical name for them, I'm sure. And so we're just going to position it up. I kind of want my tractor to appear kind of somewhere about there in the centre. And actually I feel I want to look down on it a bit as well, so I'm going to use the rotate tool just to look down. So that's kind of looking down on the original point. And you'll see now if I run the game, we launch it, and again we see the tractor is in the correct position, but we haven't got any lighting yet, so the tractor shows up as completely black like it did in Blender. So what we can do is we can fix this with a light. Go in, choose light, we'll choose probably going to use a direction light here, I think. I want to use, yeah, we'll use that for the moment. So we can bring this back, bring this up, probably kind of behind the camera, and down at the tractor. And we'll see, hopefully, if we run that, we should get now a lovely lit up tractor, and that's okay. It's not perfect, but it'll do for our circumstances. So that shows us just really how to set up this initial scene, so we have a kind of viewpoint, an idea of what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do next is import a lot of the other assets that I didn't show you to set up, but it's just the same process as the tractor, and we'll get a little 3D scene going. Okay, so I've just run through that import procedure again, import and then 3D scene for different objects. So I've got them kind of loaded now in that file directory. You can see them here. It's loaded in trees, a ground plane, and a barn. So I'm just going to add them. So I choose game, and we'll start with the barn, included that, that's great. And game, and not from there. We're going to include the ground plane as well, just to start with. So that's great. Now I've got a ground plane and a barn. I think the barn's in the wrong position, so I'm just going to name these correctly first. We'll call this barn. Oh, actually that wasn't the barn, was it? That was the ground. And this one up here is the barn. So we can just move this barn back a bit. I want it sort of at the back of the screen. Move it over a bit to line up with the ground plane. And also scale it. I want it to be a lot bigger than it currently is, and we can do that here nicely. So I'm just going to scale it to about 3 times the size of this barn at the moment, or perhaps that's too big. Maybe 1.5. My scale is clearly not that clear in my head. There we go. That's about what I was aiming for. And again, we can use this view. We can choose camera preview just to check that's kind of how we want it. And then really that's it as far as our basic game setup goes. If you were making this, you could make the ground plane extend a little bit longer. What I like to do as a nice trick is to kind of hide it with trees. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to create a new spatial below this. I'm going to call this trees, like that, and then I'm going to add a tree to that group. And you can see now there's a nice little kind of tree you see I've got there, which is kind of cool, and we'll call this tree like that. And then I'm just going to duplicate this maybe 3 or 4 times and move this around a bit. So I might take one, I might scale this tree so it's a little smaller. The next one I might move back just a little bit over there, and tree 4 I might take along, move back, and actually make it a little bit bigger. and just move it back again so it doesn't intersect quite as much. And there I've got a little cluster of kind of 4 trees, and now I can move those trees around as a unit, which is quite nice to do. So if I, from this view, change to top, I can take the trees, move them, and just position them over there, really. And if I decide I want more, I can duplicate the entire group at once, position it over there. Yep, that's pretty good. Maybe rotate it a little bit so it doesn't look quite as similar. We could always actually shrink it a little bit if we want to just kind of pretend again with the height even more. In fact, we could scale it as well. Let's do that. Let's make these kind of smaller section of trees. They kind of look a bit like mini Christmas trees. And we could take both of those, actually, duplicate all of those trees again, just to really kind of move it and generate some height in the back there. And I'm going to be really lazy here. Duplicate the entire thing once again and move it over to this side. So that was an incredibly quick, incredibly lazy way of doing it. But actually I think I'm fairly pleased with the result it's given us. I mean, we have trees in our viewport, and that's pretty much it. And if we were to run this game now, you'll see that when it loads, there we go. We have trees, a barn, and a tractor. All a little bit dark though. So this gives us just a chance to go to our light, tweak it a little bit. Let's set the energy. I kind of want maybe 1.7 times the energy from that light source. Load it, and yeah, that's a little bit better. We could probably bump it up a little bit more to 2. We won't spend too long tweaking with this now, but you can see we've got the starting of a nice 3D world pretty quickly with our tractor in the middle there. So that's just how we can arrange the start of our scene within goDot. Before we put into any scripting yet, it's there and it's ready to do something, which I think is pretty cool. So we'll leave that there for the moment, and I will show you how to start scripting. So at this point, if you have seen the video of the game actually working, you might be asking yourself, if we've got these tractors being generated dynamically and lots of them coming, how come I've added the tractor to the scene to begin with? And really it was just firstly to show you that that's how it worked, and also because there is a use for it. We're not going to duplicate this tractor millions of times here, so there's an instance for every single one. We could do that in script, but it's nice to be able to firstly scale and check that everything is built to the right size, and also we can check the initial starting position that we want our tractors to start in. So if I move our tractor back a bit, position it over so it kind of appears central to my path, that's sort of where I want it to be. And then I can choose a starting position. I'm going to make it so that it kind of appears just from the back of the barn there. It's not the nicest thing in the world, but that's where we want it to position from. Actually, this is we can do something else here, which is quite nice. Because of the view that the camera is shown at, the distortion on the barn is not too great. You can't really tell. And what I mean by that is if we just select the barn from the top, and look at it from the top, and then we look at its scale, we can see we can scale along 3 axes, the X, Y, and Z. I believe what we want here is the... oh, that's rotation. I believe what we want here is the Y. If we scale the Y just to 3... nope, wrong one, always get these mixed up. Z. If we scale Z to 3, you can see that the barn is actually a lot longer from the top, and from any kind of view it looks a little bit distorted. Not too bad, but a little bit. But from the front it actually looks very similar to how it was before, so since we've scaled it we can move it back a bit. And what that's done is just hide the back of the barn, which means the tractor can sort of look like it's coming out of a much longer barn than it realistically is. So we can take our tractor and move it to its initial starting position, and the nice thing about that is we can now check in our translation exactly where that is. So we've got it to 0.40 and then minus 7.6. And that's kind of where we want our tractors to spawn from. So once we've done that, we can actually delete our tractor from here. Make a note of where it was, 0.40 minus 7. I'm just going to make a note of that in my script editor. 0.40 and minus 7. That will do. And then we can delete our tractor. We can get rid of it. Do not need it anymore. Perfect. Wonderful. So let's choose our game and click the script button to generate a new script for it. Leave everything as it is. And ta-da, we have a brand new scripting window. So, if any of you have seen my previous, either the space shooter tutorial or Poppy Bird and looked at the Poppy Balloon and looked at the source code for that, you'll be familiar with the method I'm about to use. If not, don't worry, I will explain it again. So to bring in one of this tractor into goDot, we can use a very simple line of code. I'm going to do everything ready for the moment. We can use var red preload, and then that's the destination of the file. Now, farm tractor01 is not actually what we ended up calling this in the end, so I can go and check. And farm tractor01.scene, yes, that is correct, but we had it inside the imported assets folder, and that's where it sits. So once I've typed that in, you'll see the error goes away, and we can import that. Now, this we don't want to set up inside ready, we actually want this to exist as outside of ready. It's kind of a global var red preload tractor. And that's kind of loading in that model into the memory so that we can access it later and we can create new versions of it. And we're also going to set a tractor array up because I like to be able to keep track of all my tractors. It seems a very weird thing to talk about, but yes, I like to keep track of where all my tractors are at once and be able to call them all by name, so I like to set up an array at this point as well. So what we're going to do is, just close that for the moment, is set up a tractor that creates a function that creates a new tractor. So we have our new tractor function. We are going to have a tractor count variable to count all the tractors. So we can set up here as well a tractor count, like a proper tractor farmer. Tractor count, and we can set it to 0 to begin with. So tractor count is always going to be equal to tractor count plus 1 at the beginning, which means the first tractor will be tractor 1, and so on and so forth. If you're like me, I like coding, I like things to start from 0, so we'll start with -1 here, which means initially tractor will equal 0, and so on and so forth. So, we need to create a new tractor. We can do that with var tractor instance is going to be an instance of red. Red tractor, it's going to be a new tractor. What we then need to do is give it a name. We want to be able to call it something. So that we can access it later, and I like to do that by saying var tractor name is equal to tractor and then tractor count. So it will be tractor 1, tractor 2, tractor 3, tractor 4, tractor 5, tractor 6. This is a bit overkill, but it helps me concentrate and work out what I'm doing. And obviously we've defined a name there, we just need to set it. Tractor instance.setName, tractor name. I apologise for copying all this in instead of typing it out, but obviously it's quite late, if you can see from the time. It's 1:15 in the morning here, and I'm making video tutorials, which probably says a lot more about my sanity than anything else, but anyway. The last thing we need to do is add this to the file. So we're going to choose add child tractor instance, and that means that tractor is now going to exist in the scene. Very simple, that tractor is going to exist in the scene. So, hopefully what should happen at this point in time is if in my ready command we call new tractor, like that, and save, errors go away because there's something in ready now. And if we just run this scene, there we go, that tractor has now been positioned, that was at 0, 0, 0. That new tractor has been created, put into the scene at 0, 0, 0. Great, let's get rid of that. So of course we don't want it to exist at 0, 0, 0, we want it to exist somewhere else. So we can take this line here, and we can say get node, I renamed this, we can call this tractor name, set translation, and then we didn't want it at 0, 0, -6, we've got slightly different parameters for this game, we wanted it at 0.40 -7. So if we run this game now, you will see that that red tractor is now just here, it's inside our barn, that's our tractor's starting position. Very nice as far as I'm concerned. Just a little thing, I'm going to go back and tweak the position of the camera, it's just bugging me a little bit. This is our preview window, so I'm just going to come back a bit, I like to see a bit more, come over to one side so things seem a little bit more central, and actually I'm going to go up a little bit as well. so that I can't see the back of the barn. There we go. That makes me a lot happier. That should be great. So if we run that, there we go. That's kind of a better scene as far as I'm concerned. We can see the pathways and we can't see the back of the barn, and everything's a little better positioned. That's good. And let's have a little bit more light as well. Just for the sake of it. There we go. It'll seem a bit bright here, but it's darker once it actually runs. So back to the code. So we set this position for this tractor. So the last thing we're going to do is add this tractor to this tractor array that we generated at the top. So what we can do is we can say tractor array dot push back. Oh, I think that's the syntax. Is that right? Push underscore back. Silly goDot. And then we just want to put in the name. So we're just literally going to put in tractor name there, and now it's added it to the tractor array is the name of that tractor. That's all this does here. I've added some other stuff here. We're going to ignore that for the moment. That's it. Tractor array pushback tractor name. So we want to make sure we have a loop. At the moment we just start, create a new tractor, and then do nothing. We actually need a loop. We need something to happen here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say in our ready function, we're going to say set underscore process to true, and then we're going to create our func for process, and this gets called every single frame, as it were. So what we want to do, unindent doesn't match. How's that? Better? There we go. Great, nothing in process yet, so new tractor is throwing an error. So what we're going to do is we want any tractor that exists within our array to drive forward. So we're going to say for tractor in tractor array. Don't do accent and talk at the same time. For tractor in tractor array, we're going to get the node tractor, like that. I'm going to say var, the tractor position is going to be equal to get node tractor get underscore translation. Now this is can't spell, for God's sake. Is that it? I want to say that's it. There we go. This is different to if you've done anything in 2D yet. In 2D it's get pos, in 3D it's get translation. Not entirely certain as to why we have a different thing. I kind of think it should be the same, but that's what we call it anyway. We call it get translation. There we go. Is that what I want? Yep. Just let me look over my old code so I can tell what the hell I'm doing at this point in time. Okay, so we choose get translation, and now the tractor pos has got that variable in it. I suppose really we could call it tractor trans for translation, but pos works in my head, so we're going to use that. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to update the position. So what we're going to say is we want the tractor pos dot z xyz, this is z going backwards, the tractor pos dot z axis to equal the tractor pos z plus 100 times delta. And what that means is it's going to increase the tractor pos z, so that's the position coming forward. That is the tractor's gone, but I can show you with the barn. That is this axis. We want to increase it so it drives towards the camera. And we want to do that at a speed which is relevant to the frame rate at which the game is playing, which is why we do this 100 times delta. 100 being the speed and delta being the frame rate of the game. Forgot to put delta in up there. There we go in our process. So what that should mean is that it updates the position. And the last thing we need to do is to set it back again. So we can say get node tractor set translation to tractor pos, like that. So now, if we run this, what should happen is a new tractor should be created, and the tractor should drive forward as soon as the game launches. It's very possible that I have got the tractor to drive backwards, which may be why we're not seeing it at this moment in time. Let's just see why that is happening. Okay, so the last thing we need to do before this is going to work is just tweak how this new tractor function is called. Once you set process, nothing else can really run from ready in terms of creating assets. So we have to move this some other way. And really what I want to be able to do is create a new tractor, perhaps every 1 second. So what I'm going to do is create a new variable, and I'm going to call this time elapsed. Oops. Time elapsed, and we'll set it to 0. And then we'll say time elapsed equals time elapsed plus delta, and that just means the time is going to be stored in that variable. We can then say if time elapsed, we really should have copied that to the clipboard, is greater than 1000, so if it's greater than 1000 millimeters, then what we want to do is create a new tractor. So that means one new tractor is going to be generated every single second. And of course what we need to do then is set time elapsed back to 0. So what that should do now is mean that we get a stream of tractors, one every second, generated from that point, and each one stored in the array and incremented with its name. So we can press play and we'll see. Okay, my mistake there. It wasn't 1000, it was 1. It's not milliseconds, it's seconds. So if time elapsed is greater than 1, we want a new tractor, not 1000. That should give us one new tractor, there we go, moving incredibly fast away from that point every second. So we may have got the speed at which the tractor moves just a tad wrong. Let's have a look at this. Let's make it so that instead of 100 times delta, let's set it to maybe 6 times delta, a little bit slower. There we go. So now we have a tractor moving at a pretty good speed away from that central point, which is pretty good. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to move my barn back to where it should be. I moved it earlier just to test something. There we go. Load it back up. And now we have tractors that generate from inside the barn and drive directly forward, which is pretty cool. That's all we wanted at this moment in time. So now we have 3D assets generated in the 3D world dynamically via script and driving forward. That's all for part 2 of the tutorial. I will do a third part of this tutorial where I will go more into depth about how we split them off and generating multiple tractors of different colours, things like that. But it is 1:29 AM and I am meant to be on a trip to Birmingham tomorrow, so I'm going to have to leave it there. Hopefully if this has been useful, you can tell me below. It would be good to know if there's anything that I missed out, if there's anything I've been doing wrong, or if there's any tutorial you would like to see. I'm happy to do requests, so please let me know, give me a comment, and of course it would be wonderful if you could support me by turning off Adblock Pro if you've got it on, and supporting me by looking at some of the adverts on my website or here on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.